show on the nextgenusa.com. As you all know, it's always sensualist TV here. I got my favorite two people with me tonight. I got Steamboat Willie with his beautiful American flag behind him and his Trump hat. And of course, I got my East Coast enforcer, Mikey. Good evening, guys. How are you?
What's up?
Hey,
Well, I just wanted to let you know that this week was day, and it was amazing when I got
early this week. I understand you marked another important milestone. I know everyone here joins me in wishing you a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mikey.
my,
and I
my
finally
wife
got it right this time around.
for me.
We finally got it right this time. I kept wishing you happy birthday a couple
get
times.
my stand-in date.
No, but I got it from a reliable source, your wife. So
Yeah.
Hey guys, there's a lot going on.
That's reliable? Question mark.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching
Me
that.
either.
Hey, there's a lot to talk about. So I want to start off by reading you a quote by Vivek Ramaswamy, right? Out of all people. Right. So his quote today was, Trump's indictment is un-American, right? Trump wasn't the cause of the January 6th event. The real cause was systemic and pervasive censorship of citizens in the year leading up to this event. Let's go.
Tulsi Gabbard agrees with him.
I believe.
I agree with him. That's exactly what it is. And
this newscast
go ahead, Mike.
pieced something he said, and they pieced it when he said go up to the Capitol for a peaceful protest, and they pieced it together. They did a real shoddy job on it, and it makes him look like the bad guy.
Well, let's look at the facts.
They're just up to their dirty bullshit.
Let's look at the facts of this case.
Yep.
And let's look at how this case has evolved. If you look at the timeline, every single indictment Donald Trump has come under, the day before there was a report, something about Hunter Biden. When Hunter Biden admitted that the laptop was his, the very next day, Alvin Bragg in New York indicts Donald Trump. We can go down through the list. We can go to the documents case. Before that, there were accusations that Hunter Biden's company, Burisma, had given kickbacks to Joe Biden. The next day, the U.S. Justice Department indicts Donald John Trump. This one that we're dealing with now, this January 6th fiasco, the 2 days before, they are talking about they held congressional hearings and had a former business partner of Hunter Biden testify before a closed session of the United States Congress. 2 days, and he said, yes, Joe Biden was on those phone calls. 2 days later, Donald Trump is indicted yet again. So now we're looking at this thing in Georgia, and all we need, Fulton County, is just one more indictment to lock in the nomination for Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
He's raised $52 million since January. Yeah.
I like to see what the polls are right now.
Well, I'm sure he's increased quite a few points after today, even more. Um, it's really crazy to the point where we've gotten to that they're so afraid to take him head on an election that they have to do all this. We all know what they're trying to do, right? We know that Trump's going to win the Republican nomination. There's no doubt in that, right? And even if he's in prison, he's still going to run for president.
Wouldn't be the first time. Wouldn't be the first time.
The crazy part about all this is the fact that they're continuing, and I know they know the base is there. What they're hoping for is that they can convince that middle of the road Republican or Democrat to not vote for Trump because of all the allegations. That's really what they're trying to do.
Well, gentlemen, I think this is where, look, what is that old saying? If you want a crowd, start a fight. If you want a crowd, start a fight, because everybody will show up for the fight. The one thing that Alvin Bragg and this Yahoo special counsel did not count on is that Donald Trump, and this is where they're stupid, Donald Trump shows up for every fight, every single time. When you just think that you're going to wear him down, he comes back even stronger. But this is not, look, there are 335 million Americans in this country. I would venture to say a vast majority of those Americans do not trust their government either.
Well, I would
invite one on the show that says, I trust my government.
If they trust their government, they live in a naive world, right?
They do, and that's why I'm saying the majority of Americans, 335 million Americans in this country, and still, government and Congress even is the least popular American institution in the United States. And it comes back down to we the people. Are we going to look? Donald Trump is not the issue here. He really is not.
Swamp it.
The issue is what Donald Trump said. The American people are the issue here. If they can do this to a former president of the United States, whether you like what he says or not, and hopefully we'll get into that too, about this January 6th thing. But this is about us. If they can do this to a former president, well, ladies and gentlemen, watch out.
Well, we know, look, I've said it from the beginning, and we had some discussions about a year ago about this, how I thought they were going to do everything they could to take him out. And they're trying really hard to take him out. I don't think they'll be able to do that. They're going to drag, the 6 co-conspirators that they won't name yet into
they named a couple today.
Well, I know Giuliani's one of them.
Yeah, they're mostly Trump lawyers.
Right.
How do you do that?
So I think kind of like everything
Trump
that's
lawyers,
going on,
is that confidentiality?
Well, it's supposed to be, but with the new Department of Justice, who knows, right?
That's right. Well said, Tony.
They seem to keep violating the Constitution left and right when it's beneficial for them, and they're not getting any pushback, right? Why the people aren't pushing back? Just think about this. Let's just say they're successful on putting Trump behind bars. What's that going to solve, right? What is it really going to solve? It's going to cause his base to lose their mind, right? Who knows what can go on if that happens, if that truly
let me and you're right. You're looking at that, and I understand. And we should look at that. Except for the fact that his base continues to grow.
Right.
Look, this nation was founded. The United States was founded on rebels. This country was founded by people that put their lock, stock, and barrel, their fortunes, their lives, their families, and their futures into harm's way to make this country what it is, or what it was supposed to be. Let me rephrase that. And look, the president is not guilty of insurrection. Otherwise, they would have charged him with treason. They did not. This is a political chess move. It is blatant to the American people, even Democrats. Look, Alan Dershowitz, one of the great legal minds of our time, said there is nothing here. The indictment is the weakest indictment he's ever seen. And so, you know, the American people are going to have to decide if we're going to allow this weaponization to continue of our justice system, or our just us system, as the Democrats have made it out to me.
And I have to agree with you, right? Because everything is about misleading the American people, right? Misleading the public, and have them not focus. Kind of like when I posted that about alien hearings in Congress, right? With all the issues we have, this is what we're having. This is what we're spending money on, right? A hearing about aliens. Like, that's super important at this point. What about the people that are going hungry? What about the people that are homeless? What about the people with addictions? Why don't we have a hearing about that? Because if we have a hearing about that, things will become very clear to the American people, right? And they don't want the American people to have any clarity on what's really going on.
Right. And the other question, getting back to what you were saying about the January 6th indictment, is they're literally holding Donald Trump to account. Look, every president is allowed to question an election. Richard Nixon did it. George W. Bush did it. Al Gore, who could have been president, did it. Democrats have been doing this for years. The fact that Donald Trump was more vocal about it is not an indictable offense. It's within his rights. Donald Trump has a right under the Constitution of the United States to have a redress of grievances with his government. Every citizen. And let us not forget that a president of the United States is also a citizen. And so a redress of grievances is absolutely constitutional. So there is no attempt to overthrow the Constitution. The second thing is they're going to assemble a jury in Washington, D.C., which is 90% liberal Democrat. His lawyers are going to ask for a change of that.
Yeah, isn't the judge Obama, one of the candidates Obama elected for the position?
Obama.
Yeah, I would just warn that judge quite clearly that judges can be impeached too. So be careful.
You know, I think it gets lost in the media and with the people that what they're doing to Trump, they can do to anybody if they truly want to, right? If you don't agree with their policies or procedures, you're a target, right? If you're not a far left loving liberal that as we've come to this point in our world, the timeout generation, this is what we've gotten from the timeout generation, right? Nonsense, me, nothing about God and country.
The me attitude, exactly.
It's not, and I think people forget, like even in the military, we had the right to disobey an order that we felt was unlawful or immoral. You can do that. You don't have to follow every order. So Trump has a right to question anything he wants to question. That's the reason we live in the United States, right? Because we get to do and say whatever the fuck we want, right?
That's absolutely right.
But it's only allowed for certain people.
Look who else.
So people like Trump can't question it.
Hillary Clinton said it.
Well, you can't yell.
The president.
Some things, look, freedom of speech does have its responsibilities.
Right.
Granted, that is the truth. You can't stand up. You can't stand up in the middle of a theater and yell fire unless there's a fire.
Right.
You can't go to an airport and say, "Hey, hijack."
Right.
and not expect to get detained by the TSA. But what Donald Trump did was question an election that a lot of Americans, millions upon millions upon millions of Americans have questioned. And we have been questioning it for decades. Donald Trump is not, look at what happened in Florida between Bush and Gore. That had to go to the Supreme Court. This case is political, and because Donald Trump has a loud voice and says what he thinks. It reminds me of a quote. It was Prime Minister Winston Churchill who once said, "It is the nation that has the lion's heart." I was just lucky enough to give it its roar. And that is all that Donald Trump did.
And you both know that I call what's going on in our country the uniparty system, right?
Yes, which I think is brilliant, by the way.
He doesn't belong to any party, really. He's a Republican, but he's not that uniparty Republican. So he's not in their favor, right? They can pretend all day that they're upset about something, but until I see the Republican Party taking action, it's all talk. It's all
well.
talk.
Let's face the facts, gentlemen. The Republican Party that we grew up with is no longer that Republican Party. It just is not. It's not the party of Reagan. It could well be the party of Lincoln before it's over. But the fact of the matter is, the Democratic Party is not the party that it once was either. It is now a progressive, socialist, virtually right on the edge,
Marxist,
communist, progressive movement in this country that wants government to be in control. And any candidate that tells you that government has the solution to the problem, those candidates, as Ronald Reagan once said, are the problem.
The crazy part is that people truly believe the government can solve their problems in today's world. They think that the president, they like to say things like, we're going to pay off all your loans and take care of you. People forget that that money's coming from somewhere, right? The president is not giving you that money. He's not giving you his money. He's giving you our money. Right?
Exactly.
And people forget that, kind of like when COVID, all this free money given away, people bought into the madness that it was free money, right? Knowing there's no such thing as free, right? Because if you get something free, you're probably going to get bit in the ass anyway from something free.
Or you're gonna, first of all, there is nothing for free. So if the government says we're here to help, be aware right off the bat. Secondly, if you don't think you're going to pay the government back one way or the other, you're an idiot.
Yeah, people. I don't want to say they're naive. I think they put so much trust in people they vote for, and they don't want to admit they made a mistake when they voted for somebody.
Right.
Well,
I will give credit to President Biden or whoever has their hand up his butt making him talk, because he didn't lie about what he was going to do.
No,
he said he was going to shut down oil. He said he was going to raise taxes, and people still bought into the madness, which is amazing to me how they did that. And I know what it was. People was like, well, Trump hurt my feelings, so I'm just going to vote for him because he's a nice, feeble old man and he's not going to cause a lot of damage. Right? Well, look where we're at now.
But here's the other. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Probably nerds. He called me a bad name.
Yeah.
So they got no thick skin.
And we it seems funny to us and ridiculous that people buy into that madness, But I'll refer it back to what happens in our schools, right? It takes almost an act of God for parents to just say, wait a minute, that's not the right thing for my kid, right? Um, they're afraid of people in the school. If it was up to me, any I would do away with the unions at every school. We don't need unions in school. I would destroy that Department of Education that we have and blow it out because it doesn't work. Right?
Oh, the department
sounds
is the
familiar.
department. You just nailed it. The Department of Education needs to go. And the ATF needs to be broken up into the two other existing agencies. Because I mean,
Department of
look,
Cannabis?
when your bureaucracy becomes so huge, what you have, look, I don't know if you gentlemen have ever been to the Ronald Reagan Library, but when you walk into the Ronald Reagan Library and you make a right to take the tour, the very first thing standing there is this huge pig with an Uncle Sam hat on, and it says government pork. I have watched states literally trim down their cabinets, governors literally trim down their cabinets and get rid of agencies and save the taxpayers of those states billions of dollars in trimming that down. There should be no Department of Education under federal jurisdiction. It should be a state's issue, and it should be a family issue.
Yep.
Period. The federal government should not be enticing our teachers and our educational institutions with federal money. You're buying up. This is why the teachers union in California and across the country too, but I'm just speaking of California, why they are so out of control.
Oh, I mean, LAUSD is a great example of out of control, right?
Well, yes.
I mean, that's the worst school district in my opinion, in the nation.
It's terrible. Yeah.
But it comes back to the voters, right? When these people run for office and they buy into the madness, whatever it is that they're lying about, there's no accountability, right? We need to know what's happening before it happens. If there's people arguing over a bill that's going to affect us, maybe the people that represent us should come back to us and say, hey guys, hey constituents, Senator so-and-so is writing this bill that's going to affect you. I need your support to push back on this before the bill is written and somebody's already voting for it, right?
Well, as an example of what you're talking about, if I understand you correctly, Tony, what you're saying is the American people need to take the initiative on this. The same thing with the school boards across the country. Parents were literally silenced at school board meetings. Look, I don't know if you're ready to announce it, but there's a candidate who's giving a little bit of hope to California, who's going to run for the state assembly, and his platform is very clear. I think you know him personally.
He's in an undisclosed location.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you can tell. You know why you can tell that tonight, Mike? There's no flag behind him.
There's that same red wall.
He's in a bunker somewhere.
Yeah. I'm hiding. But it's you got to have the heart to push back and not just desire but heart, because they're going to keep knocking you down. You got to get back up every time they knock you down.
Well, you know what we have, Tony, and you know it, and Mike knows it, Senator Gabbard knows it, Tulsi Gabbard knows it, Greg Rassner, I can go down through the list. Kristi Noem knows it, Kirstensen. We have an abundance of fear here in this nation, and we are lacking the courage to take it on face to face. That is our problem in this country, because we are so afraid of the government, and we're afraid of law enforcement, which I don't understand. but we are so afraid of our government that we literally have disempowered ourselves as the very first branch of government mentioned in the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
We, the people.
I can't understand why we would give up our authority as easily as we have in the recent years, right? Because I think we have a lot of it. They use COVID against us. The tests worked. They know they can control us at will if they want to, and people didn't push back. Certain states push back, which is a good sign because there's people out there with common sense, right? But other states didn't push back, right? And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And what happened? We lost businesses. We lost people. Don't want to live here anymore. They want to move away. We lost major corporations. And still, yet the governor of the wonderful state of California thinks he's a great person to be president of the United States. Unbelievable. Right?
Well, I mean, this is political ego, number one, because his record just does not prove that he's, cosmetics are not everything. But
I agree.
But to get back to what you were saying, this culture that we're living in, this culture of fear, this culture of political correctness, look. I'm going to share something with you, and if you get hate mail, blame it on me. But I'm going to share something with you that I did. I got in a little bit of a hot water over, but I didn't hide it. I took full responsibility. So Maxine Waters, one of our illustrious Democratic from the hood congresswomen, here in California. She had to just piss me off about the reparations thing again. But she overstepped her bounds this time when she said, well, we should be able to take the reparations from Native Americans who facilitated slavery. So I sent her a few good things. And I've got some if anybody else wants them. All you have to do is call 202-222-8017. Ask for Will, and I will get your reparations out to you. Here is $500 from the Confederate States of America. Here's $1 from the state of Florida. Here's $2 from the Bank of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Here's $5 from the great state of Texas. And here is another $100. Oh, I think I sent Maxine too much. But anyway, here's another $100 from the great state of Louisiana. And you want your reparations. This is all you're going to get. Because anybody could file reparations in this country. Japanese Americans, Native Americans. The fact is, we need to get over this past, as you always say so eloquently, Tony. We need to know our history, but we need to get over the past and move forward as a country, or we're all going to be left behind before it's over.
Well, and I totally agree with that. What happened. There's nothing that I could do or you could do about it. We weren't living in those days in that time. So we can't live in the past. And I think people are just using this to take advantage of a certain group of people, right? Whether it's the African American community, whether it's the Hispanic community. Just trying to take advantage of that.
They're talking about Donald Trump inciting. They're talking about Donald Trump inciting an insurrection on January 6th. Congresswoman Maxine Waters literally told her people, do what you have to do on the streets to get what's coming to you. Now, you tell me that's not inciting, right? Especially in Compton, in Linwood, California, which, by the way, she doesn't live in those neighborhoods. She actually lives outside of her district in a $4.5 million mansion.
the beauty of being in California, you can run for any district, whether you live there or not, as long as you live in the state, right? So they don't
Yeah,
care.
well, you know what? We're going to find somebody to run against her.
Well,
Yeah.
Joe Collins ran, I believe, twice against her, and twice he lost. African American, prior service Navy guy. It's tough. She's well entrenched. She's one of those.
Run again.
Yeah, she's one of
Well,
those.
at 84 years old, I would hope that she would just counter. I wish she would just counter her years of disservice to this country and go home. And nothing else will be said.
Of water on her. Just throw a bucket away. It's been done before.
It's been done before. That's right.
It's scary. It's scary that someone like her has that kind of juice, right?
Well, but it's not her that has the juice. It's the corporate interests and the special interests that she takes money from to get rich. And if you really look, yeah. She's done a great. Look, we've always said this, and I think we still agree. Public service should not be a profitable thing. Nope. It should be a time of sacrifice. Whether you serve in the military like you did, Tony, for 25 years, or the decades upon decades that Greg Rath served, or Mike Riker, who served decades upon decades in law enforcement. That is a rewardable thing. Now, if you have never served in those positions and you serve in public service, you should be grateful for the opportunity to serve. But somebody like you, Tony, that served their government for 25 years in the United States Army, and then you're still willing to serve in government for the American people, that is a soldier. That is a warrior beyond anything I can explain.
We could learn a lot from kids. I was at a national night out event last night where the community comes together. Law enforcement is there. Just a fun night, just to have a good time. And to watch kids interact with law enforcement, it was refreshing. Kids were happy to see them. No negative comments from kids, No,
right? because they're not jaded. They're not politicized. And you know what? The innocence of a child is how we should approach it. Not naivete, as right. you mentioned earlier, but the innocence of a child, recognizing that, look, people don't understand that law enforcement is on the defensive right now. They're not on the offensive. They're on the defensive. I mean, just today, some asshat called 911, and they dispatched Capitol Police, Washington, D.C. police to the Capitol because somebody reported that there was a mass shooter there. Well, you know what else they did? They took police away. Donald Trump is supposed to appear at the courthouse tomorrow for arraignment. And they took most of the police away and sent them to the Capitol. Now, I hope they go back in there and scan that building because it sounds.
It was actually Russell.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a Russell.
No, but I'm saying there was all three. They went through all three. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
but they took.
If you got a watch, you're doing the shooting at the front.
But they, and the head of Capitol Police today said that they're pretty sure that you're right, Mike. But they can't guarantee it because they always look for an inside job. But there was no evidence of that. But they left the courthouse that a former president has to go and be arraigned tomorrow. They left that virtually unprotected for 4 hours.
Yeah, well, those courts
Well,
usually have the
we all
marshal
know
service that stays there.
we all know that was a setup anyway, right? They knew they could have stopped this from the get-go if they wanted to. They didn't want to. They were going to use that. They had a plan, right? They were going to use it against Donald Trump. They knew what they were doing.
That's exactly what it is. Trying to make him look like he's creating chaos when he has nothing to do with this.
It's
Exactly,
it's
Tony.
sad that this is where we're at today, right? Where we're indicting a former president for nonsense, number one. Number two, right? We're not even concerned what President Biden did as VP, right? We don't care how much money he got. It's okay. I don't really even care about Hunter Biden, to be honest with you, but President Biden, or as I like to call him, the chairman, he's been involved in all this. The evidence is there, and yet we're not doing anything about it, right? At the end of the day, we're focusing on Donald Trump.
Thus, the argument that I was trying to make at the beginning of your show is that every time the focus is on the Biden incident, Trump gets hit again.
Right.
Now, look, let's be fair about this. This is politics. Politics is one hell of a blood sport. It's not just a contact sport. It's a blood sport.
Yeah.
No more so than how they're trying to take out Donald J. Trump. Whether you vote for him in November is up to the American people. But if you don't see the hypocrisy in this government, and you don't see the weaponization, look, some of our greatest leaders today are saying the same thing. And unless we recognize it, we'll be next. You know, there's that old saying back during Hitler's reign, where there was a pastor who said, "Look, when they came for the Catholics, I said nothing.
You did.
When they came for the Jews, I said nothing. When they came for the gypsies and the homosexuals, I said nothing. And by the time they came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me."
That's right. And what are the only two qualifications to be president? 30 and a U.S. citizen. If you're in jail, you can
That's
run
foreign citizen.
and you can win. And you can go in and say,
Well, the speaker should like this. The back in the early part of the century, Eugene Debs, who was a rabble rouser, he was a socialist, and as a socialist candidate, he won from his prison cell. He won 1 million votes, the highest garnered up until Ross Perot. And so, look, the fact is, I truly believe the president. We are just look at the time frame here, guys. Look at the time frame. Look at the time frame of the indictments. And I heard Jackass, the special counsel, say, "I'm going to seek a speedy trial." Well, good luck with that. That's great. You're going to seek it, but you're not going to. None of these, exactly, and none of these cases are going to be decided. I almost guarantee it. None of these cases are going to be decided before the November.
No, I agree with you. I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
I've watched legal battles
it's called a Hicks
rage on.
You can do it.
Well, look at that shooter. Look at that shooter.
Right.
Yeah, look at the Tree of Life synagogue shooter that was given the death penalty today. And I watched the press conference. And they waited 5 years for justice to be done. And so it was finally done, and I do applaud that jury. Because I know Jesus, growing up with Bible stories, I know Jesus says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." This asshat knew exactly what he was doing, and he's just that piece of shit.
Well, we have many like that. Some of them.
So good riddance, dude.
Some of them dress as leaders and
Bye-bye.
politicians for us. They're just as dirty as that dipweed was, right, or is. It's a sad state of affairs that we're at the position we're in today, that we still have to convince people that the current leadership sucks, right? With everything that's happening. Gas prices in California have gone up every day the last 9 days, every day, right? And yet people in California still vote for people like Newsom and Pelosi, right? With all the resources we have in California, what's the big push now? Get rid of gas stoves, right? Nationwide. The president's trying to get rid of gas now, right? So,
which is stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big fan of cooking on electric stoves at all. I'm going to tell you that right now.
No. Well, but the electric company is a big fan of you cooking on electric stoves.
Imagine your bill.
You know, I know, Allie.
The people charge your electric car.
I know Allie will be up.
The electric more than the gasoline it would take to fill them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Well, you know, I know, Tony, I know Allie woke you up late last night because she was so excited about the campaign and so forth, and she had all these ideas, and she's one of those disenfranchised Californians who wishes she could get the hell out of California, but if there's any hope, well, she's going to give you every idea. And so when she said, look, if we have to resort to swords and shields, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure you win.
Whatever, you know, whatever, Star Wars, lightsabers, we have to get the message to the people what's important. And they know what's important. They just don't have confidence in anybody that's going to be able to help them. And we got to show them that we can't do it alone, number one, right? Everything we have to do it together. I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. Mikey can't do it alone, right? We all have to stick together with the same message to send to California, to send to Washington. We've had enough. Enough is enough. We need a change. We need somebody with common sense approach to life. We need some normalcy back. Normal life.
Well, they're calling for the old guys. And I mean, these are massive political action committees calling for the old guys to retire, calling for on both sides of the aisle, by the way. So they're calling for Republican Mitch McConnell to resign or not run again. Dianne Feinstein, they're calling for her to be removed. They're even calling for Lindsey Graham of South Carolina to resign. And they're not the only three. It would take up the rest of our show to name all of them. But they want the old guard out. They want a new guard in.
Well, we need some.
They want Fetterman out.
Some fresh ideas, right?
Fetterman out. Yep.
We need people that can relate to family issues, family concerns, which encompass everything. We don't have to break things down by economy or public safety. If we talk about, in general, families, that encompasses everything. If we take care of families, we're taking care of their financial needs. We're taking care of their public safety. People won't be afraid to go walk at night, you know, because they feel comfortable and safe in the area they live.
Exactly.
People will be comfortable with their kids going to school without having to worry about somebody taking a weapon or practicing for mass shooting on campus. If they have the right leadership and they know that leadership is going to stand up for them, people would be happy again.
Well, you know, and I want to say, because I know we're about 15 minutes to the top of the hour, but if anybody wants to blame, because I wear my Trump hat every week since my friend Al Collins sent it to me. I wear it every week on the show. I might get back to my cowboy hat here shortly, though. I need to feel like I'm riding a horse again. But if anybody wants to blame Donald Trump for that little ditty that I did with Maxine Waters, Donald Trump had nothing to do with it. That's all William Griffith. If you want to indict me for that, for my protest, call me at 202-222-8017.
You're a brave little guy. Look, the beauty of living where we live is we can give our opinion and not worry, right? And if people get butthurt because you don't agree with them, shame on them, right? We don't have to agree with everybody. Everybody doesn't have to agree with us.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, this goes exactly back to the indictment yesterday. There is no witness, not a single witness, not even that turncoat, Mike Pence, our former vice president. There is no witness that's going to be able to testify that Donald Trump truly believed that he lost the election, but he was going to tell a lie. Donald Trump, which is his right, truly believed that he did not lose that election. And in order to prove this case, they're going to have to prove that Donald Trump did not believe what he told the American people. Otherwise,
Hillary Clinton still doing it.
Not guilty, acquittal, or hung jury. Donald Trump will not be convicted of this crime.
Well, it's pick and choose, right? Pick and choose who you're going to target. That's all it is, right?
Well, and Hillary Clinton, Mike brought up a great point. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said it was a fraudulent election.
But it's okay because it was Hillary.
She didn't get indicted.
It was okay because it was Hillary, and she's part of that far left nut house, right?
That cesspool.
And people need to come to terms that you don't have to be an attorney or some rich person to be a leader, right? Most of those people never let anybody out of a wet paper bag. They're more managers. We don't need any managers in government. We need leadership in government.
Look, Harry Truman.
We got managers running the military now. Managers, freaking frack.
Yeah.
Right? And do you really think people are going to go do what they have to do under the current leadership? I don't know. I question our military as it is. Not the people in the military, the leadership in the military.
The leadership, right?
Because I know
exactly,
and will fight to the end. Yeah,
and that just proves how smart. That just proves how smart you and Greg Grass are, because you got out just in time. You saw the winds of change coming.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be smart enough to know when it's time to go. Kind of like a football player. If you hang around too long, people aren't going to remember all the great things you did. They're going to remember all the bad things you did the last couple of years, right?
That's right.
I wanted to make sure that when I walked away, the only memory of Tony Rodriguez was he was a badass leader, and that's it. Not that he was an old decrepit old man who couldn't run, his back hurt, his knees hurt. They're not going to remember that guy because he wasn't in there when that happened. So
that's right.
You got to know your limitations. And I was talking to some of the staff today about understand what you're good at, right? And focus on what you're good at, and what you're not so good at, whoever your partners are, that's who should be better at that than you are, so that you can complement each other on a daily basis versus worrying about, well, I'm a horrible recruiter, but I'm a good operations person. Well, if you're a horrible recruiter, we make sure that we hire a good recruiter to offset that weakness you have, because we don't take advantage of people's expertise. We like to bring out all their weaknesses and never talk about their strengths. And that's something that is inherently wrong with the people in today's world. Nobody wants to focus on the good things that you can bring to the table. They'd rather focus on the bad things that you can't bring to, that you're not able to do, which is not fair. It's not a fair assessment of people.
Right.
So
exactly. Well said.
We've been together a long time. I still don't know how I met you, sir. But I'm glad I did. And I got to meet Mikey because of you, so I'm super happy about that also. So I'm glad to be part of the team, right?
Well, and you got the Mike Gabbards, and
I'm super
who
excited I met
or
him.
Grass.
He sang a song for me. So when he was
no, he didn't just sing a song for you. He wrote the song.
yeah, he did.
He wrote the song and sang it for you. I still have yet to get a song.
That's a badass senator to do that.
That's a badass senator.
But
Well,
as we move along, we meet people that we might be different in many ways, right? But we have one thing in common: we care, right? And we have to find people that care because they're out there. They're just afraid to come out, and
that's
it's time that they feel comfortable coming out and saying, "Hey, I agree. This country is in a position that we don't want to be in." Not just because you're embarrassed what the rest of the world think, because we're embarrassed what we think. You know, the route we're going, the route we're taking, what we're allowing the current leadership to do, whether it's state, county. We got to end. I was talking to somebody last night at the event, and we were talking about how 10% of the people voted in a certain district, my district, District 7,
I know.
and Monica Rodriguez wins with only 10% of the vote, right? How ridiculous is that? That people.
Well, that's the thing too. That's a great point, Tony. We're not energizing people to go vote. Every once in a while in a cycle, that will happen, but we haven't been doing that. I think in the last midterms, I think the voter turnout was 18% statewide. That's ridiculous.
So
No,
it is. So speaking of energizing,
and a lot of Republicans, and I'm going to say this to my Republican friends, a lot of my Republican friends stayed home.
yep.
And that is not acceptable either.
No, it's not, because then you sit there, snivel and whine and moan about how horrible things are. But a lot of it is your fault because you don't want to get off your ass and go vote, right?
It's like when there's a pile of dishes. It's like when there's a pile of dishes in your sink,
Mm-hmm.
and you're complaining that nobody's done the dishes. Well, get up off your ass and do the dishes.
I think
It's not one person's job. It's a collective thing.
And I think we need to look for people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and go to work. And by work, I mean really work and fight for the people that you're with all the time. And that's what we're lacking, right? People get elected and they get, I'm elected now. Like young Ken, right? Out there in Orange County, right? She talked a good talk and made all these promises. And she can't keep any of them, right? Because she wasn't smart enough to figure out that some of the promises she was making, there was no way she could do, right? So people need to check politicians when they promise something. Can you really do it? Is it really possible for you to do that? Is it just BS talk, right? To just BS talk. So
what is your plan to do it? You got an idea, not a plan.
Yeah,
what is the plan?
A lot of them don't have a plan, and they're not shy about that either. When I get there, I'm going to figure it out, right?
Speaking of plans, the only reason I lasted so long on the show tonight is this ice pack that has been cooling my phone for the last hour because it's hot as hell out here. And speaking of another plan, Tony,
yes,
the
sir.
number 4 California.us. I urge you to go there and watch and read what Tony Rodriguez stands for in California.
And I want to piggyback on that. I want everybody to know out there that I am officially entering the race for California Assembly District 44. And some people have told me not to do it. You know, I ran for Congress last time, but I am going to run. And I'm going to run because I am a big supporter of families. And without families, we can't accomplish anything. And I've been saying this all night. Families are the most important thing in our republic. And
families first.
I don't have to talk about, the economy, because that encompasses everything: families, public safety, awareness, what's happening. Everything encompasses a family unit. And I learned that when I met this William Griffith guy, when he said government begins at the home. And I had to think about it for a few minutes, but he was absolutely right. Government begins at the home. And if we can't manage our home, how in the hell are we going to manage the republic? We need to get back to common sense approach to things, right? If it doesn't make sense, let's not do it. If it doesn't make sense, let's not spend the money. Let's not give in to these special interest groups that want to take our money to give it to people like the BLM organization. They made a lot of money off their nonsense, and I don't hear a noise from them. They haven't accomplished anything for the African-American community. They've managed to have a couple of $1 million homes for themselves, but that's about it, right? So we got to get away from supporting these special interest groups that don't care about what's happening, right? We can't be spending $4 billion in Los Angeles for housing and have no idea where that money is. It's incredible to me. We can't defund the police because one group thinks that police officers are all bad. You know what? We might want to fund them even more because I'm afraid for my family to walk around at night. I don't want my wife going to the market when it's dark. I don't want my grandkids playing in the front yard. Right? And
this is this makes the American people, this culture of fear, we become hostages to our own government.
Well, and here it is, right? We need to get everybody together. We need to push back, draw a line in that sand, and not let the government tell us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. It's not their right. Those are our kids. That's my property. My property doesn't belong to the government. I want to know what you're doing with all the money. And one thing I guarantee the people that if I'm elected, I will tell you this: you will know from me every quarter what is happening in our district. You will know what the state is trying to push down your throat so we can fight together, because I can't do it alone. I need you to help me fight. I can't do it alone. It's just like any military operation. One commander can't do it. One company can't do it. One battalion can't do it. The division can't do it. We have to do it together. We got to fight on all flanks, or they're going to continue to manipulate us and make us fear them more and more. I'm over this COVID nonsense that they keep talking about. The states that didn't follow the nonsense that was brought into California, they were very successful. Florida,
and now, Tony, they're creating a new COVID scare,
right?
And saying that the new vaccine will be effective. No, you know what? Fool the American people once. Shame on you. Fool the American people twice. Shame on the American people.
Well, it's time for the American people and Californians to wake up, right? We need to shake up this government. This is our time. We cannot wait another election cycle to try to change leadership anymore. We have to do it now. And you know what? In 2 years, if you don't like what I do, vote me out. I won't even win if you don't like what I do. But I will fight for you tooth and nail to make sure that at the end of the day, we get what's coming to us. And what I mean by that is the ability to dictate to the government what we want, not what they want.
Exactly.
Right? It's what we want. If I want my child to go to a parochial school, then that's my tax dollars. I should be able to send my kid to parochial school. If I want them homeschooled, they should be able to be homeschooled. It's my money, not your money, California government. It's our money, and we need to make sure that we stand hand in hand pushing back for anybody and not worry about the nonsense of LGBTQIA or BLM. They have their own agenda. The agenda for us is families. Families should not be politicized on any level. The family should decide for themselves what is best for the family. And speaking of families, I just wanted to say before we have to go that this is the 4th anniversary of Tulsi Gabbard's run as a Democratic presidential candidate against Kamala Harris. And
And we're celebrating that tonight because Tulsi's best days and the best days of the country are yet to come.
Well, I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to tell you. Right. I mean, we need a drastic change in what's happening in our republic. And again, I want everybody to know that I'm running for California Assembly District 44, which encompasses Sunland, Tujunga, La Crescenta, Glendale, Burbank, and Montrose. So you people out there that live in those areas, let's go ahead and start finding out what Tony Rodriguez is all about. Feel free to go to my website, Tony, the number 4, America.us.
No, Tony, America. No, Tony, the number 4, California.us.
Thank you for correcting me. I got super excited, Mike.
That's what I'm here for.
So let's get this rolling. Let's make this election campaign, whoever jumps in the race, we're going to give them a run for their money.
You certainly will.
I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight.
Sacramento, here he comes.
Steamboat Willie, Mikey, thank you for joining the Tony Rodriguez Show on the nextgenusa.com. Looking forward to next Wednesday, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.